All righty. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. I just want to say, I know it's a busy time in the evening, or depends on where you are on the planet. Maybe it's morning for you, but I just want to say thank you so much. This conversation is for anyone who feels that there's something not quite right. Maybe you've experienced normal blood tests or something, when it's not really explaining how you're feeling. So maybe you've gone to appointments, you've paid for the test, you've gone back again to get the results, only to be told that everything's fine. There's nothing to see here. While you feel everything but. And tonight is about pretty much just being very open, very honest, but turning that gap into a gain. So both Joanne and myself are health professionals, but more importantly, we've been there. There's nothing you could say or do that would shock us or would surprise us, because we've done the rounds, we've gone in circles, and that's exactly why we're here. For those who don't know me, my name is Rhonda Muller. I'm a mum, a grandmother, and also a functional nutritional therapist and founder of ASD Healthy Life. I'm based in Mackay, Queensland in Australia, and I've been working and supporting the community since 2009. Before I even started studying in the health sector, I spent years working across management, sales, marketing, but the real reason I went down this path was for personal reasons, because I wasn't getting answers for my own family. I knew I needed to think outside the box, and I really did not want my family or anyone that I really cared about to go through the same hellhole that we were going through, right? It was expensive, it was emotionally, physically exhausting, and I didn't want anyone to go through that. Because when you honestly feel like you're not being heard, when you don't feel like you're being understood, it's extremely stressful. And I just felt like I was taking one step forward and three steps back, because I was constantly doubting myself. And that's why tonight matters. I'm incredibly grateful that Joanne has agreed to join us, because, like she just said, she's a real early bird. She's not an evening person, but she brings a wealth of experience, not just professionally, but personally. Yeah. Joanne is a second generation naturopath. Her mother ran a naturopathic training college in Townsville, North Queensland, for many, many years before semi-retiring. She's just turned 80 and she still hasn't retired because she loves what she does. So yeah, she truly she's grown up in the space and brings a real depth of understanding. So tonight's not about quick fixes. It's about understanding why so many people feel stuck, even when they feel like they're doing all the right things. And that's exactly what Joe and I were doing. We were feeling like we were doing everything right, and we still were not getting answers. So this is two health professionals just sharing our firsthand experience and what we're seeing again and again in clinic, but also, sharing when it actually started to shift, what changed. So, Joanne, if you could just share a little bit before we dive in, can you share a bit about who you are and the work you do?
Okay, so obviously I'm Jo, and I have a clinic called Back to Basics Health Solutions. And I have stemmed from my mum's business, which is Rob Morrow's Alternative Health Specialist, but we used to also have at Rob Morrow's College of Natural Medicine. And Rhonda is right. I have come from a lifelong family experience of natural therapies or alternative therapies. And funny enough, when I was writing my notes today, um, my mum originally started in the massage field. She'd studied nutrition and naturopathy, I should say. But when I was a teenager, this is how far it stems back. So I'm 56 now. But when I was a teenager, I had finished high school and I was at work and I was exhausted all the time. Exhausted. Mum used to take me to the doctors. And this was the true response. She's just finished high school and she's getting used to working in the real world. She'll get over it. I was hard. I would get home from work. I would go to bed. Mum would wake me back up again. And this is when she started digging more into her naturopathy. And then, we created a college of natural medicine in the future. Um, but where I came from is that being a part of it, I studied diet nutrition. after having children. But then after having children, I also had a weight issue. And I didn't know why I had a weight issue. I thought I studied nutrition. I knew what I needed to know. But I would go to the doctors, just like many people who have weight on, and I would become frustrated because they kept saying to me, there's nothing wrong. I would present with symptoms of even an underactive thyroid, but they just wouldn't listen to me. I'm like, but I'm so frustrated. I was teary, I was anxious, overwhelmed, all these things. But if they actually truly listen to the words that I was saying, it comes back down to symptoms. So it got me down a little rabbit hole, as we do in alternative therapies. We start researching more. And I realized I was looking at my diet the wrong way, and that inflammation plays a huge part. And I have, if we call light bulb moments, I'm going to talk about 3 light bulb moments. This is number 1. I realized that the food and the diet and nutrition was totally wrong, and that it needed changing. And that's where I started my business over 30 years ago. I practiced what I preach. I did it on myself first, and I lost weight. And then one of the clients that came in said I was looking pretty good. And I said, oh, thanks. And he said, do you think you could help me lose weight? And that's where I started my business originally. So we enjoy helping people. That's what we do. And through the clinical experience of even with mum coming through, I've heard for years and years, we used to be the last resort. The people that they would come to a naturopath because the doctors couldn't help them. They were told that there's nothing wrong with them, but yet they still knew that they didn't feel good on the inside. They knew it. We're not silly people. So that's how we now, actually now a lot of us, people come to us first for the doctors because they're actually going, hang on, there's more to alternative therapies. And this is where Rhonda and I have this experience, is that we listen, we take the time and listen to a patient. The patient actually knows the answers. They just don't know they know the answers. But if we listen long enough, we can actually guide them through diet, nutrition, support, vitamin minerals, etc., and we have a solution for them. So that's sort of where I sort of started and where we are even are today.
Yeah, thank you. And when you knew something wasn't quite right, like, because you and I have both sat in that same chair, like for me, after recovering my son from autism, like, long story, I'm not going to get into that tonight. That's not why we're here. But even just me trying to get the support I needed for my son, they would do all the the mainstream pathology testing and all that kind of stuff, and they said, "Oh no, everything's fine. Perhaps you should do a parenting course, Rhonda, and here's some antidepressants and yada yada." And it was just like, it was really frustrating. And so that's why I started to study and started to get results. But then that process of, I knew everything I needed to eat. I was taking all the right vitamins and the minerals and everything for all my own functional testing. But I would go to the doctor because I totally burnt myself out trying to establish, well, why am I still crashing? Why is this happening? And they could not give me the answers. And that I didn't find out really about the missing piece that I learnt about, and I thought I was addressing correctly, but I didn't find out about it until 2018. And I'll touch on that a little bit down the track. But yeah, so would you say that that's fairly similar for you as well? You knew what you needed to eat, you were doing everything right,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
we
yeah.
were, we
And
were
you're
just
right.
going in circles.
I am a healthy, like, even if we talk on just even for me, like, I am a healthy person. I exercise, I eat what I thought was a pretty clean diet. But when I'd go to the doctors and I was feeling really flat, because, I mean, you may not know, I'm sure you can notice, I have what's called vitiligo, which they label autoimmune, which we'll talk about in a second. But sometimes we can be deficient in certain vitamin minerals. And I was feeling flat, and I would go to the doctors and ask about my iron or vitamin D, etc., any of these things. But they just come back and they go, you look, it's all normal, right? And I'm going, but I feel really like flat. And even on an iron testing, I was like one above the low enough level that they'd probably do an iron infusion. But he said, you're fine. And I walked out because I got the blood test and I looked at him. I went, I won't say what I said, but anyway, I'm like, you crazy. I told you everything. It's literally written there on the paper. It's just that
Mm,
it wasn't flagged red.
yeah,
And this is when I realized, even though we need doctors, but they don't have all the answers. Okay, so it's okay to say, well, maybe I'll look into this a little bit more because this is exactly what I've had to do for myself, for my children. I don't know how many times I've dragged my children in thinking they know better, only to walk out going, I should have just listened to my own thought process in the beginning
Yeah,
because, I would be able to help my own children. It's just that I never trusted that I knew more than a doctor. And I'm not saying I do, but in some areas I think I do. And I've even had doctors as some of my clients.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, me
but
too.
it's all about labeling and, the autoimmune, and we'll talk about autoimmune in a second, but they just give them labels because they don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah, yeah. And like even for, what we're talking about, those results, they're not optimal results. That's just what they're guided by. And unfortunately, they're not taught nutrition. It's very minuscule.
Two
Hopefully,
hours. I've been told they've
yeah.
only lectures of 2 hours. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. So what they may say is, well, that's okay and nothing to see here. When I look at it and go, holy Julie, actually, no, you're really depleted. But then it comes down to, but why? Why are you depleted? And we know that, our soils are so depleted. We're not getting the right, the old nutrients that we used to, for example, when my
Yes.
grandmother was a child and all that kind of stuff. The chemicals and all of this, that everything that we're being bombarded with. And this is why I especially loved, for me, the real light bulb moment in 2018, December 2018, when I was introduced to activation. That changed everything because when you look at, you can put in all supplements and all that kind of stuff, but it comes down to, but why aren't you absorbing in the first place? Yeah. Do you want to just touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, even with absorption, coming back to, and I can only stem from my own experiences, like in with vitiligo, I knew there had to be something wrong with absorption, but I didn't understand that I was missing a link. I mean, I've studied, as I said, diet, nutrition, but I always thought there was something wrong with the gut, but I just never knew what. I thought I addressed it, and I'd even come to the stage, well, look, I hope hurry up and just go white and just be white, and that would be easier. But I also had like deficiencies in my nails, and this was telling me I was not absorbing in my gut. So I knew that there was a connection somewhere,
Mm.
but I took everything that I thought was possible to help this process. And and that's when I realized that there was a missing link and I was missing it, but I didn't know until you don't know you're missing it until you actually know. And that's when I had spoken to Rhonda, and she knew something that I didn't know. And I felt a little bit embarrassed about that in the beginning. And it took me nearly 2 months to actually contact Rhonda because I thought she's going to think that I'm a bit of a dill. But the beautiful part in natural therapies is that we do bounce off each other and we don't all know the answers, but we know someone that does know the answer. And that's the real big thing that we need to look at. And that's why, when I said before, people come to us because they're the last resort, but we're not. We're just givers and we're helpers. And if you listen long enough to a person, it's just working on the caring area. You will help them find a solution to their problem. You
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. And so, for those who are not familiar with the term of activation, um, like for both of us, that was a real significant turning point. Like for me, when I introduced activation, my hair was falling out. I had my own bricks and mortar clinic, and I did not have the energy to get into my own clinic. I'd get up and do the dishes, have to lay back down. I was absolutely spent. Sold off my bricks and mortar clinic and kept the nutrient therapy side for myself. Went online in December 2016, one of the best things I ever did. But the reason I did that was because I had significant adrenal fatigue, and it did not matter what I was taking, what I was eating, any kind of stress, I would crash. But when I brought in activation, everything changed within 3 days. And that's not the same for everyone, but within 3 days, I felt like I was back in my 20s. When you finally discovered activation, Joe, what shifted for you? What does it mean for you?
Well, there was a couple of shifts that I had really, and surprisingly, shifts that I never knew that I was going to have. The first one was, this is the light bulb moment that I had. I started activating my cells once I started deep diving and researching. And what I like is that it aligns with all the herbs that I'm familiar with. So I've already been working with these herbs in my clinic, but obviously the combination or how it's formulated was different than what I've done, because as I said, I've got all these in liquid forms anyway. But when we looked at the inflammation, the activating the cells, cleaning the cell up, what started happening, which absolutely blew my mind, was I had a knee pain, which I'd had for 6 months. Now I'm a runner, but for 6 months I was hobbling like an old lady. I was starting to feel like an old lady. And anyone who knew me, I was bleating and I complained. Oh, awfully complained. Within 2.5 weeks of activating my cells and re-looking at collagen, which I totally was blown away from because I was taking collagen, my knee stopped hurting. 2.5 weeks, I was back running 1K, 2Ks, 5Ks, 10Ks. Hadn't done that for 6 months. Okay. The other thing that I really noticed, which was a secondary thing that I didn't know was going to happen, was my vitiligo was starting to regenerate. My normal skin tone, I should say. Once again, I'm still taking normal vitamin minerals, which I was having, but this is where my other light bulb moment came. My body was now activating and utilizing them better, because even though I was having them, I wasn't deficient. I was still supporting my body and my immune system. But now we were having a shift. Now my gut was probably changing, because you can't really see these things happening. But for me, I can see these things happening because my skin tone is regenerating and coming back to normal. Now, it's not going to happen overnight, but it did happen almost overnight. But I've had this for 25 years. It's just me. I just, it's fine. But then suddenly I started seeing patches and dots and freckles starting up my shins. And I'm like, there's something happening here. And this is when I was talking about, back to gut, digestion, inflammation. We knew all this, but I didn't think there was a cure. I always told there's no cure for vitiligo. It's autoimmune. And that's the third light bulb, is that we get labeled autoimmune because they don't know what to do with us, or in lots of different people for different reasons. But I was labeled that, and I just took it on the chin and went, okay, it's autoimmune. Just, put your big girl panties on and live with it. But now I'm seeing changes. And as I said, whether it takes 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years, it took 25 years to get here, but it's regenerating quicker than it took to disappear before. So that's pretty amazing.
Oh, and I totally agree. And I remember when you were saying, and I could hear and feel the frustration, where you were saying, like, you were going to some of the best sports
Oh,
people.
yeah. I paid the Cowboy sports guys.
I
Yep.
know.
I gave them the money, and he told me literally, he did the scans. He said, Joe, there is nothing wrong with you. And I said, I cannot even sit on the back of my heels. I cannot sit down. I'm getting up like an old lady. And he literally told me, there's nothing wrong with you. And I went, I'm in pain. There is something wrong with me. No.
Yeah, yeah. And like you were saying, you've nailed it. Not everyone's going to respond really quickly. Like they say, you need to give activation, a minimum of 1 month per decade. So I'm close to 60. So if I was starting today, I'd have to give it, at least 6 months before everything starts to come back into balance and helps our body work as nature intended. What I found, it took me 6 months before before I noticed my knee used to grind. Like I used to be, that leg warmer girl, Olivia Newton-John, and bouncing high impact aerobics. And my kneecap, I used to play netball, touch football, the whole thing. And my kneecap used to flip out to the side. I'm sorry, it's really gross. I'd slap it back in, and my mum would be on the sideline. She'd strap me back up and I'd go back onto the field, to the point where I ended up needing surgery. And my knee was just constantly grinding. Like, here I was in my 30s having to hold on to the handrail as I was walking up stairs, couldn't climb up, cliff faces or anything, all the stuff that I used to really enjoy. And 6 months in, I found myself running up a flight of stairs, and I stopped halfway and I went, holy dooly, I have not been able to do that for over 25 years. So not everyone's really in tune with everything that's going on. So yeah, I absolutely love that. Okay, so just before we wrap up, what I see in clinic is clients, they're accelerating, their absorption is improving, right? Inflammatory markers, especially with the NRF2 activator, the liquid collagen activator. And if you're not really familiar with what we're talking about, please go back to the person who was kind enough, who cared enough to share this, invite you onto this, share the recording, whatever it might be, and they'll be able to give you more info because we just don't have enough time to do that. But we will be holding regular weekly info sessions. So definitely, follow, stay tuned, and you'll be learning more as you go. But when you swallow that NRF2 activated tablet, just 5 herbs, and the liquid collagen, or both of them just functional food, it reduces inflammatory markers by 97%. So, Jo, I want to ask you, what are you seeing in clinic? What are your clients telling you?
Well, just this week, I've had clients on from November, December, so we're all December to January, and I just caught up with some of my clients literally this week. I've had Deborah, who lives in Innisfail, and she had a knee pain 10 out of 10. It was grinding. It was basically bone on bone. So she knew that she needed operation. Her surgeon said, look, if we can push it out as long as possible, we can push it out. Now, she's had this for 10 years. Now, I'm not telling a lie. 1 month, I was just literally talking to her today. 1 month, and she said, Jo, my knee doesn't hurt at all. And I said, are you fair income? She goes, I am fair income. And she said, I've had that for 10 years. And I said,
Yeah.
holy jolly. And also she's got osteoarthritis. Her fingers and her joints are feeling so much more better as well. She said she did notice she missed it for 1 or 2 days and she started feeling it again. But overall, she's just feeling brilliant. I had another lady, she'd been to the doctors as well. She was low on energy. She couldn't get out of bed. She would get out of bed and go back to bed, a bit like you were saying for you. And she suffered from reflux. In 6 weeks, now remembering everyone's going to be different, but in 6 weeks, she's got more energy. She's sleeping better. She's feeling better, which means she's eating better because she's feeling better and losing weight. But she has noticed that she hasn't got tiredness. She's got more energy. She's feeling so much better. And that's in 6 weeks. Another lady I have that I spoke to this week, perimenopause, Emma. She had, obviously, we've got fatigue, lack of energy, perimenopause. We've all been, well, I don't know if we've all been there, but a lot of us have been there. She said, my body ached in pain. And she said, everyday life was a chore. That's how she described herself. Every day was a hard day. Now she feels better. She's back on track. She's at the gym. She's running now. And she noticed when she missed a week, I think she'd gone away. I can't remember why she had a week, but she said so much different she noticed even in a week. But this has only been 6 weeks. So, like their bodies haven't even built up yet. So we're only just like starting, but this is just only a handful of people. And I've spoken to quite a fair few, but I just wrote a few notes down of specific ones. But that's just amazing. And this is what we're hearing. When people come to us, they normally come to us because they feel like crap. That's just ultimate, okay?
Yeah.
Our job as practitioners we're in the feel-good industry. There's 2 industries. You've got the sickness industry and the health industry. We're in the health industry every single day. Our job and our role is to help people feel good on the inside and the outside versus being the sick version. And no one wants to be sick. Everyone wants to be healthy, right? Or as best as healthy as they can be. And that's just even showing just people that I've just a handful of people, and I speak to hundreds of people every month, that we're seeing results, and that's in clinic.
Yeah. Sorry, I love that. Where am I? Yeah, sorry, my dog was going off. So yeah, look, I just want to say thank you so much. And just a reminder that we are not claiming to heal, cure, mitigate, reverse anything. But when you can identify what's going on, when you get in front of the right people who have the knowledge, the know-how, the experience, and you remove what's harming, remove things that are creating issues, premature aging, inflammation, whatever. Once we identify that, remove it and replenish with what heals, help put the stuff in to help our bodies work as nature intended, right? Reawakening the pathways that we all have within us that have either gone dormant or things are overexpressed or underexpressed. When we get that rebalanced, amazing things happen. So yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for your time, Joanne. Thank you everyone who's taken the time out of their day to jump on. And if you have any questions, please go back to the person who invited you onto the call. If you've got any questions or anything like that, they'll be able to help you. If you want to learn more about the activators, they will be able to send you some really short little clips or add you into our Facebook support groups with thousands and thousands of testimonials. Like, you know, I'm a nutritional therapist. Joanne is a naturopath. We have cardiologists, we have pediatricians, you know, so many health professionals jumping onto this because, one, it's natural, it's backed by robust science. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here, but it works. It's absolutely a godsend. It's changed my whole life, and I'm constantly shouting that from the rooftops. So yeah, I just want to say thank you so much, and enjoy your evening. And yeah, I hope it's been worthwhile for you. Thank you so much.